Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1799BN. Today's date is February 24th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Deep State Fear is Coming True, and It Cannot Be Stopped. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about the deep state. We know they continually push their goals, and we know that they try every trick in the book to scare the American people. And one of the best things you can invest in for your home and for your protection is a Patriot flashlight. Now, this flashlight is solar powered, so you're never going to waste money on batteries again. It has emergency strobe light, it has a USB port, it has a compass, rope, wire cutter, and a siren to ward off individuals. Patriot flashlight is the perfect gift for you and your family. Go to patriotflashlight.com. Use the promo code X20 and get 20% off the Patriot flashlight. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, their biggest fear is the people waking up. Because once you have a people who are fully awake, that understand that they've been lied to, and they understand that, well, wait a minute, here are the facts, they've been using propaganda on us. You can't take these people and put them back to sleep. It's completely impossible. Maybe over time, but in the short period of time, it does not work. And the deep state, this is their biggest fear. And the movement right now is getting larger and larger as time moves on. And they're starting to realize that more and more people are waking up. And this is why you can see all the attacks on QAnon. You can see all the articles coming out. You can see certain Twitter accounts, certain YouTube channels, certain Facebook accounts, and many other platforms where they're taking down posts or just removing the social media account or the channel. Because the only way they know how to combat this is with censorship. But as more and more people wake up, this won't work, because what are they going to do? Censor everyone? That's just absolutely ridiculous, and it cannot work because it's too noticeable at that point. And I do believe this is why Q has been calling it a great awakening, because once you get the momentum going and enough people are awake, you cannot stop it. And once this moves further than anyone that ever thought of, the deep state, they can't stop a movement of this size. They can squash a small movement. They can center a small amount of people, but a great awakening, this is something they cannot handle. This is what they fear the most, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to talk and go back to post 2858, where we had this UC Berkeley individual attack a conservative, and Q told us in post 2858 that they have facial recognition. Well, it looks like they identified the suspect, and he was caught on camera, and now they know who it is. So it looks like they will be going after him. They have a clear shot of him, and they know exactly who it is. And as the investigations continue with Mueller and everything else, well, we're starting to learn a lot more on how the Trump administration was set up. And this is coming out of the Gateway Pundit. Papadopoulos was interviewed by former secret agent and author Dan Bongino. And this is how the interview went. Bongino, I want to get right to it. I have a list of questions for you. I guess the easiest question to ask is, why did you meet with Misfud? Papadopoulos. Professor Misfud is a Maltese professor. Just so everybody understands, he's not Russian. I was working at this organization in London, the London Center for International Law Practice, that unbeknownst to me at the time was apparently some sort of front group for ex-Western diplomats and ex-Western intelligence types of personalities. As well, the legal counsel for the FBI in the UK, Arvinder Sambay, just happens to also be a director of this organization I used to work for. I tell this organization, look, I'm joining the Trump campaign, I'm leaving, I'm going back to the US, I'm leaving London. But they all of a sudden tell me, before you leave, you really need to come to Rome with us. We want to introduce you to some people there. So I say, that's fine. I'll go to Rome. It's a 3-day holiday before I get back to Washington. They introduced me to Joseph Mifsud at the university in Rome called Link Campus. This isn't any normal university in Rome. At the time, I had no idea what this place was, but apparently it's a training ground for Western intelligence operatives in Rome. The CIA has held symposiums there. David Ignatius from the Washington Post has actually written extensively about this. They have connections to the FBI and other groups. I also saw many Italian diplomats there. The ex-foreign minister of Italy was the director of this university, so things started to pop in my mind that this isn't just a random event, a random meeting. They tell me it's very important for you to meet Joseph Mifsud. I have no idea who this person was. He came up to me, presented himself as the mid-50s former diplomat who knew the world. The mainstream media and the FBI, Department of Justice, and Mueller team all wanted to connect Trump to Russia, so they set up Papadopoulos and they claimed he met with Russians. Well, the only problem with this is that the Russian was not a Russian. He's a Maltese professor. The entire connection in London was a setup. So you can see right now, as we continue on and all these investigations continue on, we're starting to realize that more and more of this was not by chance. It was set up by the deep state. Now we see that House Democrats, they're starting to move in on Barr and trying to influence him with this final report. Adam Schiff wrote a letter to Barr establishing a set of congressional demands to exploit innuendo and inference for their impeachment objectives. And this letter was signed by Nadler, Elijah Cummings, Schiff, and Elliot Engel. And it's obvious that this team, they're going to exploit the Robert Mueller report for maximum political value. And they're going to try to use it for their impeachment goals. But we need to remember, why was the Senate so important? Why was it the key? Why was it the target? Because you need 2/3 of the Senate to impeach. What will the Senate do? It will block all of this. We see that Trump just nominated a new UN ambassador. This is Kelly Knight Craft. Nothing to do with Kraft of the New England Patriots. And Trump tweeted out the following: I am pleased to announce that Kelly Knight Craft, our current ambassador to Canada, is being nominated to be United States ambassador to the United Nations. Kelly has done an outstanding job representing our nation. I have no doubt that under her leadership, our country will be represented at the highest level. Congratulations to Kelly and her entire family. So it looks like we're going to have a UN ambassador replace the neocon Nikki Haley. And we'll have to see how this individual does in the UN. Now, out in Venezuela, we're starting to see a lot of things happening. And once again, all that we're seeing is out of the playbook of the deep state and the neocons. I do believe the Trump administration and those in his tight inner circle are setting all of these people up so they know how their operation works. I think they knew how it worked, but it's better to catch people in the act. And what better way to do this is just to let them do what they do best. Now, the Washington Post, they're pushing the narrative that in Venezuela, there was about 200,000 people that attended the Richard Branson concert in Venezuela. And they wrote the following: the attention on Saturday remained immediately focused on the single largest staging ground for aid in Cúcuta, Colombia, where a massive benefit concert hosted by British billionaire Richard Branson drew a crowd of more than 200,000 people on Friday. So Moon of Alabama said, well, wait a minute, 200,000 people? This just doesn't sound right. So they have this aerial drone shot of the crowd in this area. And looking at it, and you can see where the bridge is blocked off, you can see the crowd, you can see where the stage is. It does not look like 200,000 people. And the organizers, they claimed that 317,000 people attended the event. Well, something doesn't make sense here. So they looked at this map and they took a snapshot from Google Map and decided to calculate how many people could fit in a certain area. Now, according to Google Map, the scale, the field's northern edge is some 125 meters wide. The crowd was standing at the northern end of the field at a depth of about 50 meters. The density of the static crowd was low to medium with an average 2 to 3 people per square meter. 125 meters times 50 meters equals 15,250 meters squared times 2.5 people meters squared equals 15,625 people. Now you can add those people that are on the fringes and bump that number up to, let's say, 20,000, just to round it off. So the show was supposed to attract around 250,000 people. That's less than 8% of expected crowd arrived. And Branson claimed the concert would raise about $100 million, but never really explained how this money was going to actually be raised, because they didn't get what they thought they were going to get at this concert. Now, the mainstream media, they are pushing the fake narrative and going along with this whole regime change type of thing. So, in Venezuela, we know that there was this humanitarian aid stunt at the Colombian-Venezuela border. And it was supposed to achieve 4 different points: to breach the border and thereby open venues that could later be used for the passage of arms and fighters, to incite large-scale defectors from the Venezuelan army and police forces, to demonstrate to the outside world that Guaido, who declared himself president, has a very large following now, and he's the legitimate president. Number 4, to deliver justification for further steps against Venezuela. But I think one of the main tactics was to show Maduro was using force against the people of Venezuela. This way, Guaido, Pompeo, Bolton, they can say, okay, look what Maduro just did. We have to take the next steps. And I believe they were trying to push riots, etc. And this is out of the playbook of the deep state, the neocons. And if you look at Syria, you look at Ukraine, you look at all these different areas, it's the same thing. Now, point 1 was clearly not achieved. A few hundred young men attacked the Venezuelan National Guard force that closed off the border. Attempts were made to ram aid trucks through. Guaido was nowhere to be seen. The whole thing ended in a minor riot. The New York Times headlines, and Guaido claimed that some aid passed into Venezuela from Brazil. But if you read down the article, the whole headline is completely fake. They admit that nothing got through whatsoever. The attempt to incite defections of Venezuelan security forces also failed. Now, a handful of National Guard foot soldiers went over to the Colombian side, but the National Guard lines held well, even under a hail of stones and fire, and the units were quite disciplined in taking and holding their positions. The military of Venezuela stands firmly on the side of the state, so Guaido did not get the military whatsoever. Guaido has also lost his original legal position. He claimed the presidency on January 23rd under this paragraph of Article 233 of the Venezuelan Constitution. When an elected president becomes permanently unavailable to serve prior to his inauguration, a new election by universal suffrage and direct ballot shall be held within 30 consecutive days, pending election and inauguration of the new president. The president of the National Assembly shall take charge of the presidency of the republic. Now, the elected president becomes permanently unavailable. That's what it says. Well, it doesn't look like Maduro's permanently unavailable. So if Article 233 would apply, Guaido would have had 30 days to hold new elections. Well, 30 days are over, and Guaido did not even call for elections to be held, which tells you that this isn't happening. And I do believe that Trump and the Patriots knew that there wasn't going to be a movement in Venezuela. But remember, they've been trying to do this for many, many years. This is not just happening now. The same thing with Syria. They were saying that Assad is a dictator. He's hurting his own people. The same thing in Ukraine. And I do believe there's another plan happening behind all of this. This is the cover story while Trump and the Patriots work behind the scenes. Now, we can see there was a false flag happening on the Venezuelan border. And we can see that a trunk that was attempting to get into Venezuela was set on fire. And this was all staged. And it looks incredible on the news, on the mainstream media. But then you have to look a little bit closer on what was really happening here. It looks like they set the truck on fire. They staged a whole thing. There were people running around with masks shooting at individuals. And this whole entire scene was taken from the deep state script that they used in Ukraine, that they used in Syria, that they used pretty much everywhere else. Make it look like Maduro is killing his own people, setting the aid on fire, making it look like he's all responsible. But we can see once again, this is a false flag event. And a lot of it was caught on film, where you can see the masked men running around. And this is how they use these people. They blend them into the crowd, they start something up, and they film it, put it on the mainstream media, and they try to make everyone believe that narrative, which turns out to be false, fake, and phony. Now, Trump is going to be meeting with Kim Jong-un, and it looks like Trump tweeted out the following: Chairman Kim realizes, perhaps better than anyone else, that without nuclear weapons, his country could fast become one of the greatest economic powers anywhere in the world because of its location and people, and him. It has more potential for rapid growth than any other location. Trump continued, President Xi of China has been very helpful in the support of my meeting with Kim Jong-un. The last thing China wants are large-scale nuclear weapons right next door. Sanctions placed on the border by China and Russia have been very helpful. Great relationship with Chairman Kim. Trump continued, so funny to watch people who have failed for years. They got nothing, telling me how to negotiate with North Korea. But thanks anyway. It's all those same players that are trying to tell Trump what to do. All the people that never succeeded. Trump succeeded. I believe he should listen to his gut, his intuition, and his own mind, because he's the one, with other help, who made this possible. So, we know that the mainstream media is out there, Bolton is out there, Lindsey Graham is out there saying that troops are going to be staying in Syria. Now, I believe Trump is allowing them to put this message out there, but I do believe behind the scenes, once again, that the troops, they're not going to be staying there. They're there for a small period of time to clean up whatever they have to clean up, and then they're going to be removed. Because Trump was out there saying that he has not changed his decision. All troops will be withdrawn from the U.S. Remember in the beginning, Bolton was out there saying that the troops will never leave Syria until Iran does. Then Trump all of a sudden announced that the troops will be leaving. The same thing's happening right now. Lindsey Graham understands, and who knows best, of what happened in Syria because he was part of the paid mercenary. He realizes, listen, we need to clean some stuff up first because it will implicate me, it will implicate, and I think this is why they're doing it right now. And eventually Trump is going to say, okay, we're done here. All troops, we're withdrawing them from Syria. Let's get into some of Q's posts here. This is post 2862. And Q put up a meme. It's tarmac based on a true story. It looks like a movie poster. And it says, we have it all. No deals. Boom. The nail in many coffins. Toxics to those connected. It has Loretta Lynch, Bill Clinton on the poster, said rated R. And it says release the video. So there's another meme up here that it says, and it looks like a little cartoon. And it says, hey, Loretta, if you can get my wife off the hook for that email thing, there's a Supreme Court seat in it for you. And she said, and what if she loses? Lose? Are you kidding? We own the media. How could she lose? Below that, days later, it says, our judgment, and this is Comey, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Now, below this, it shows Loretta Lynch on the tarmac. So, VoxDog created the top meme on the tarmac and asked the question in the tweet, when are people going to start asking questions about what really went on with that meeting on the tarmac with Lynch and Clinton? The second meme is from @JeffDoriso, and this is the deal of a lifetime. And this is the little cartoon that we just read. And under this, Q says, dead on Q. So Bill and Loretta Lynch claim their meeting on the tarmac was not planned, but Q has told us that the Secret Service documents, the FBI documents, paint a different story. They have the logs, they have the information that this was a planned meeting because they took precautions for the meeting on the tarmac. So we already know that this was a planned meeting, not just a coincidence that they met there. Post 2863. An anon posted a tweet by Trump and asked Q a question. So let's read the tweet. It says, a must-read by @KimStrassel. Conspiracy theorist Adam Schiff is looking for something new, anticipating a Mueller letdown, writes @KimStrassel at the Wall Street Journal. Under this, it says, why hasn't this been noted? Trump just tweeted the same link Q started within a post 2856 regarding new narrative. Q proof. So Q says, got popcorn? So Q posted this on the 21st and Trump tweeted this on the 22nd. Once again, another Q proof. Post 2864. Q put up everything from 2863 and said, there sure are a lot of Q comments on that tweet POTUS just referred to. Happy Friday. And it looks like there's a lot of anons that are tweeting or responding on this tweet saying Q sent me. Post 2865. Q posted a meme. It's the wall the media is building in America. And this was put up by Donald Trump _CAG. And Q says, memes, and more memes. The truth will always win. So Q is telling us we need a lot more memes and wants everyone to push it as hard as possible. So it looks like Q reposted a graphic from an anon showing Q plus is POTUS, asking the question, Q plus is POTUS aboard Air Force One, shows post 2563, where Q told us, where is the plus sign on a mobile phone? Well, that is on the 0. So the anon put up Air Force One call sign is Q0, and it shows that the president is over Virginia. So Trump, he will be on his way to meet Kim Jong-un in Vietnam, and Q has told us prior in post 2563 that when you see Q0, that is the call sign for the president, and we're going to probably see a lot more of this as Trump is in Vietnam or in that region. Post 2867, Q put up a link to a video, and this is when the president was driving in the motorcade, and it says motorcade honk referenced in QAnon drop 1691. This was back in July of 2018. Below it says Q posts a video of the motorcade. Are we having fun yet? The best is yet to come. Post 2868. Q gives us a Twitter link, Reagan Battalion. And this is a video of Bernie Sanders in 1985 praising the communist Castro regime in Cuba and admitting on camera that he traveled to Nicaragua to advise the Ortega regime on how to successfully fight the United States. And Q says, it's amazing what a person finds when they simply research. Praising Castro, ? Will the next wave of D 2020 candidates begin to push the everything will be free, reparations for all black Americans, more government control will save us, etc., etc.? Broken record, lines in order to buy con voters. More talk, more claims, no facts, no plan, no details. What happened? R.E. Bernie's wife fraud case. Gave us a link to Washington Post. It looks like she was cleared in all charges in this land deal investigation. And Q says it pays to play the more you know. So it looks like they were paid off and all charges were completely dropped and his wife is free of all of this. So it looks like the D's, they're going to try to use the same plan as they've always been using. We will give you everything for free. And of course, the government is unsustainable. It's too big. It cannot work. And since it cannot work, it cannot happen. But they use this to push their agenda. Post 2869. And Annan says, you bet Q knew Kraft was on surveillance video. Just when Kraft got all liberal in the fake news. Keck Q. So Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, was charged in a prostitution sting involving the trafficking of Asian women. And Annan stated that Q must have already known this because he was caught on video. Q responded, Super Bowl winners, ? Puppy, sex urban dictionary, ? Q. So Q actually gave us a clue back in post 2843. This was on February 20th, 2019, before the news even broke. So if you go back to post 2843, Q says, "We'll make the Super Bowl look like a puppy show." And Q was referring to puppy sex, which was referring to the Super Bowl, which referred to Kraft being in this video. Post 2870, and Annan posted the graphic of Kraft holding up the trophy for the Super Bowl. Under this, it says, "Sex puppy," gave us a link to Urban Dictionary, "a very sexy person who does nothing all day but follow around his or her master in a sexual manner. Always happy for intercourse, doggy." Q. And this was a very big sting in Florida. And Robert Kraft is not the biggest name involved in this sting. There are many others. There's about 175 names that are going to be revealed. 25 people already named in the police report, with up to 200 names in total involved in the investigation. So, I mean, this thing is huge. And some of the people there that are listed are John Childs. We also have John Havens, the former president and COO of Citigroup. He's also been caught up, and we're just waiting to hear who else is involved in this. This was huge. Post 2871, and Annan asks a question. Q. DeGenova says sedition, not treason. Is that delineation accurate on those who were involved to frame Trump and the American people? Please advise. So Q says sedition, treason, crimes against humanity. What is sedition? Conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. What is treason? The crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. What is the definition of crimes against humanity? A deliberate act, typically as part of a systematic campaign that causes human suffering or death on a large scale. So, looks like Q put it in order. Sedition, treason, crimes against humanity. Post 2872, and Annan posted the OIG report, a section of it, and describes what was found on Weiner's laptop by the FBI. And this is point number 3. Weiner, texting, 15 years, sexually explicit. Initial analysis of laptop, thousands of emails. Hillary Clinton and Foundation, crimes against children. So, under this, Q put Hillary Clinton and Foundation, crimes against children. Q confirmed by repeating this section that yes, this is exactly what they found, and it was on there. And if you go back to the section of the OIG report, under the part where they listed 1, 2, 3, and it says crimes against children, it reads as follows. We asked Coleman about these notes, and he told us that given their placement in his notebook, the notes would almost likely represent information he was briefed on first thing in the morning by his subordinates in the Criminal Investigation Division. Coleman stated that he may have passed this information to other FBI executives after the morning briefing with the director, but he could not remember if that occurred. So other people saw this, and he's saying, yes, the director saw this, and they did absolutely nothing. Post 2873. Q posts a meme, and this is Donald J. Trump with many different black individuals, and it says, end the fake news narrative. Under this, it says, fake news only divides. Divided, you are weak. Together, you are strong. Hashtag united, not divided. Where we go one, we go all. And you can see the video of all this where Donald J. Trump is with all these African-American individuals, and they're all around him, and he is not racist. His father's not racist. This was created by the mainstream media. Post 2874. Q gave us a Twitter link to AP Politics. White House looking into Labor Secretary Acosta's role in secret plea deal for sex abuse. News articles from AP News, White House looking into Acosta role in sex abuse plea deal. Q says, how do you fill your admin if majority of those in politics are corrupt? Draining the swamp. Q. And remember, Weiner got a lighter sentence because of what Acosta did, who most likely was paid off to do the procedures completely wrong. And this way, Weiner was allowed to go free after a certain period of time. Post 2875. Q gives us a Twitter link, hashtag breaking. Trump administration moves to cut off some Planned Parenthood funding. Under this it says, one step closer. Q. So if we go back to post 2398, Q explained to us how the money flows through Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood then sends it back to the Democratic Party. And they use this money to push their agenda. And there's many other things that are associated with Planned Parenthood. So it looks like Trump is getting ready to defund Planned Parenthood. Post 2876 gives us a link to Hillary Clinton, and this is her tweet. At Politico reports today, a wide-ranging disinformation campaign aimed at Democratic 2020 candidates is already underway on social media, with signs that foreign state actors are driving at least some of the activity. Threat. This is a direct attack by Hillary Clinton on Q and pro-POTUS individuals. The article is suggesting that conservative Twitter accounts are mimicking the behavior of foreign accounts that were used in the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton is suggesting that the social media accounts are targeting Warren, Booker, and Harris, and these accounts are foreign-controlled. Russia, Russia, Russia. This is part of the Russia disinformation campaign. This is the campaign to censor individuals. Under this, Q says, for those who think this war is fake, or we are not considered a major threat, this is a direct attack by Hillary Clinton on Q and pro-POTUS, patriots. The article referenced as an embedded link that literally targets pro-POTUS Q Twitter accounts that have been identified by Clinton D's as serious threats, ability to shift the narrative. Twitter has already begun to remove targeted accounts stages under false pretenses. The war is real. The threat is real. Clinton panic. Clinton fear. Judgment Day is coming. So Q in post 2877 says disregard all spelling and other errors on the move, so don't even look at that. So post 2878 gives us everything from 2876, and under this gives us a link to IWR@AI, voter fraud. And when you look at it, it looks like they're tracking all these individuals. And it says the 200 accounts shown above are a sample of a network on Twitter talking about voter fraud and amplifying false and misleading narratives about election integrity and the democratic process. We discovered that this group of 200 accounts either generated or were mentioned in over 140 million tweets over the last year. As you will see below, this network is not only growing at an accelerated rate, but also coordinating with effective tactics that appear to bypass many of the detection methods of existing disinformation research. The list was created by looking at hashtags. They were used to track down those accounts that were pushing voter fraud. Link embedded in article, crooked Hillary, and 3 brackets on each side. So what they're doing is they're tracking all these individuals with hashtags. So most likely, those people that are on Twitter do not use hashtags. Plus, they are talking about the memes, where they're saying that they're able to bypass certain detections. And that's what memes do, because the algorithms can't read the memes, so it bypasses their detection algorithm. So they are definitely targeting these individuals, and they're going to be taking a lot of these accounts down because they need to censor people. This is how they control, but they're losing the battle because the more they censor, the more that pop up. What normally happens, people create another account and they start it all over and the followers just go right to them. Post 2879. And Annan posted a tweet from AFP news agency, and it says hashtag breaking. The internet infrastructure is under attack. The agency that oversees the online address book warns. So Q says the following, gives us a link to ICANN.org, and it says ICANN calls for a full DNS SEC deployment, promotes community collaboration to protect the internet. Q says tools of prevention online. Q telling us that the internet is protected. Post 2880. Q says, and this is all in brackets bold, public service announcement, targeted, directed, purge, and gave us the political article, the tweet from Hillary, and the IWR article showing how they're tracking all these individuals and how Hillary was pushing the censorship of these individuals. And Q gave us the list of targeted accounts. Now, a lot of these accounts I was checking, some of them are gone already, and some of them I used to follow, and now they're gone. And then in post 2881 gives us the second batch of the accounts that are targeted. And you can look through these, but under all these different links from Twitter, Q says the following. Patriots, you have been selected as threats and falsely labeled as foreign disinfo agents. Though they attempt to disguise at the bottom as not all, this is an attempt to target and remove by false pretense all threatening voices, elimination of free speech to prevent loss of control. These actions are now being monitored and would strongly encourage forwarding this information to the appropriate members of Congress, Senate, and the media. We believe this is a test run to effectively silence the opposition while testing the potential media backlash and or official response. This attempt to remove silence fascism, those who oppose their view narrative, should further demonstrate their resolve to control the message narrative, win at any cost. So what is the deep state trying to do with the help of the mainstream media? They want control, and they want to maintain control over the narrative by using censorship. The mainstream media and globalist shills are attempting to maintain control of the public narrative via internet censorship. Let's move on to post 2882. And Anon put up the following. More importantly, why is the Washington Post leaking the attack versus Q? Who owns the Washington Post? Who funds Amazon? So this was a previous post, and it says they're scared and desperate. Below this, Q says, coincidence, days after this post, we have everything. Q. Post 2883. Q gave us more articles asking the question, why would Obama push the control of the internet to a corporation in California? Gave us an ncc.gov, and it says understanding internet infrastructure. Number 2, it says remove control from government and provide California. Who owns California? Well, Q has been telling us Pelosi, Newsom, Brown, all the deep state players. Gave us a link to Forbes. 7 days before Obama gives away internet and national security. Now, going back quite a while, we discussed how Obama was removing the control of the internet from the United States government and moving it away from the government. Number 3, it says significant risk, cover, control, and this is the ICANN.org. So the question is, why would Hussein transfer the U.S. government control of the internet to a non-profit California company? Well, when you read down the article in Forbes, here's the section of the article that explains why. Currently, the U.S. government vets and approves every domain name and IP address on the internet. When the A server is replicated nightly, it is done following U.S. government oversight and authority to post the new IP address. Now, think about it. If the U.S. was engaged in cyber war, a situation surely to occur, under this new arrangement, the U.S. may not know if all the IP addresses for domain names are legitimate or if they have been manipulated or compromised in some fashion. Moreover, the government's and the private sector's ability to get new sites accessible on the internet would be dependent upon the actions of a non-profit organization which is increasingly multinational. It is also possible that ICANN may fall under the influence of powerful corporations or nation-states who do not have the U.S. national security interests at the forefront. And Q says, you are the news now, Q. And I believe Obama was moving this away from the government. So this way, there could be a cyber attack, and the U.S. would not be able to respond to this. I mean, think about what they were setting up here. Unbelievable. Post 2884 gave us a Twitter link to J. Ben Shade. This Twitter post has been deleted, but we do have the video. This is about the Krasenstein brothers, where they're discussing how they were paid to go after Trump. And of course, they made it seem like it was a joke. And Q says the following: "Nothing to see here. You are the news now, Q." And there are many, many paid shills that are out there, and they're getting paid to counter everything that Trump does, everything that truthsayers try to do. There are paid shills, there are bots that try to counter all of this. So why do they pay these individuals? Because the deep state is afraid of the people waking up. Once people are fully awake, there's no way to put them back to sleep. And they will do everything and anything to keep people asleep. But what's happening here is that more and more people are waking up. And the only way to shut it down is to try to censor as many people as possible. And from history, when certain individuals try to censor other individuals, people become even more curious. People find ways around this. And eventually what happens, the censored people become the strength because they find other ways of getting the message out. And as more and more people become awake, more and more people join in. And as more and more people join in, those people that are trying to censor, they can't. There's too many. And if you censor the majority of these people, which is hundreds of thousands, what does it look like to the public? It looks like you're pushing censorship. This is where the problem comes in. This is why they try to do it on a small scale in the beginning. And they try to stop it in the very beginning. But what happens is it grows and people open up another account and another account and another account, and it continues to grow. And other people open accounts, and before you know it, they can't stop it. This is unstoppable no matter what they do. That's why Q continually says nothing will stop this. Now, Trump tweeted out something very interesting. It says, "Hold the date. We will be having one of the biggest gatherings in the history of Washington, D.C. on July 4th, Independence Day. It will be called a salute to America and will be held at the Lincoln Memorial. Major fireworks display, entertainment, and an address by your favorite president, me. I wonder what he's going to say on Independence Day." Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.